This is the Nassau Hockey Podcast with James Nichols and John Zella.
All right, welcome back to another edition of Nassau Hockey Podcast. James Nichols here with John Zella. What's going on, bud?
Not a whole lot. I've never heard this tone from you ever.
It's not a good tone, and it's because the Islanders are still currently putting up a stinker. Neither of us are really happy about it. It is currently 6-0 going into the third period. The Islanders are severely down on shots, severely down on players, because nobody's shown up to this game, and it's a bit of a concern moving forward. Bad time to put up a stinker in Game 5 with the series tied at 2 on the road. Game 6 Wednesday, going back to Nassau Coliseum. We'll see how they respond. But first, let's get to On the Island, brought to you by DraftKings. The second round is in full swing and the action increases from game to game. This is where the contenders are separated from the pretenders. And to give you some skin in the game, DraftKings will be offering free-to-play pools every day of the basketball playoffs, offering players a free shot at up to $10,000 in total cash prizes. That's up to $10,000 in total cash prizes up for grabs each day. The best part of it is that it's free to play. DraftKings free-to-play pools are easy to enter. Just download the DraftKings app, go to pools, and choose from a wide variety of free contests for an opportunity to win cash prizes. DraftKings is safe, secure, and reliable, so you can deposit and withdraw your money at your convenience. Download the top-rated DraftKings app now and use promo code THPN when you sign up to get your free shot at up to $10,000 in total prizes every day of the basketball playoffs. Head to DraftKings Pools page to get your shot at huge cash prizes. That's promo code THPN for a limited time only at DraftKings. Eligibility restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com for more details. So, Game 5, currently a stinker, still a stinker going into the third period. The Islanders will be without Mr. Matthew Barzal for cross-checking Jan Rutta in the face at the conclusion of the second period.
Back up a little from your mic.
Oh, why am I super loud?
It's super. You're clipping a little bit, but that's okay.
I apologize. So, going into the third period without Matthew Barzal, he cross-checks Jan Rutta in the face, and now they are down a man as if they had 12 others skating anyway. But
your best player can't do that stuff.
Correct.
I know you're aggravated. Reffing and officiating have been questionable, I think, in both of these semifinal series. It was topic discussion on Hockey Central today with Justin Bourne, Jeff Merrick, and Anthony Stewart. They all had different opinions on that, but that does not mean you can go do something like that. That's not acceptable. You don't want. He has to be a leader on this team. Especially without your captain in the lineup. He has to be, even though he's really young, he has to be a better leader than that.
Yeah, so one of the storylines of this game has to be, obviously, the discipline. Let's just take a look at it here. The Islanders are facing 30 penalty in minutes currently in the second period or the period that just passed. Nelson, 2 for hooking. Clutterbuck, 2 for interference. Palmieri, 2 for tripping. Matt Martin, 5 for fighting. Pajot, 2 for tripping. Pajot again, 2 for roughing. Barzal cross-checking, and a 10 at the end for misconduct. The discipline is a big story here.
I think even in addition to the penalties, just like their discipline, sticking to their game plan, like coming out with energy. I know there's travel involved. That's not like a weird thing. They've been doing it all playoffs long now. They're going all over the place. But they just came out flat. What was it, 40 seconds in? 48 seconds in?
So let's go back to the first period and just talk about that first goal for Steven Stamkos. A shot from the point redirects and just happens to land in front of Stamkos with Varlamov on the other side of his crease for an empty net goal, essentially. What do you make of that goal? I know there was a bit of a bad play where the Lightning wound up with the puck in the offensive zone again. The Islanders kind of failed to clear that puck, but it's a bit of a gift goal for me. What do you think?
I think that stuff's going to happen. I think the 6 goals to this point, and although I did miss the 6th one, apparently it was on the power play. I was setting up for this because I just kind of had it. But any 1 or 2 of those 6 goals can happen in any game, right? All of them happened in this game. Those, weird bounces. This another one with Green going down, it deflects off his stick. Maybe that was a second or third one. Any 1 or 2 of those, like I said, could happen in any game. You expect it to happen, especially in the playoffs. People are, you get tired. You are traveling. It is every other day. You aren't really getting that much rest at this point. They haven't had anyone in and out of the lineup. It's been this since the end of the season. Like it's been this, with save for Wallstrom and Zajac. It's been the only lineup change in like 2 months. Same 6D since the first day, other than Hickey and Aho for just a cup of coffee earlier this season. Mental lapse. It's going to happen. You saw Marc-Andre Fleury do it the other night, right? It comes out of his net, kind of gives them a gift too.
Sure.
I don't expect them all to happen in one game. I think that's where you're like, that's a lot of mental lapses. And I guess look, if you're gonna put up a terrible game and you're gonna lose, it doesn't make them win 2 games by being up 6-8-0, whatever the score is going to be at the end of this game. They don't lose 2 games because they let up more goals, right? You still have 2 more games. You can still come back next game, tie the series, and then, go from there. This makes it harder to win for sure. But at the same time, it's not. They would be going back to Long Island if they had won this game with Tampa nipping at their heels, energized, wanting to get back at them, wanting to even up the series. This could have happened in Game 6. Like this, they have not done this, to their credit. 2 things to their credit. They've not done this in the playoffs so far. They have not just put up an absolute terrible start to finish game. That has not happened yet.
No, totally agree.
And I think this is what people expected in this series. They expected 4 games of this or something close to it.
Which is surprising to me because, again, the Islanders play the system where they don't really often allow too many goals against. And aside from, the game against Tampa Bay last year in Game 1, it didn't happen much in last series either. So, I guess we can chalk it up to maybe it's going to happen once a series against Tampa Bay. They know how to put the puck in the back of the net, and this happened to be the particular game they decided to do so. But this is not something that you typically, if you follow the Islanders, expect from the Islanders. If you're only seeing them aside from, this season in particular, you saw them 8 times. If you're an opposing team viewing the Islanders play a game, but if you're only seeing them 2 times a year, such as maybe the Los Angeles Kings, on paper you might say to yourself, "Oh, this should be a game where the Kings score 8 goals. Why not? They're not great on paper, but when you're constantly watching the Islanders, you don't expect this out of them, and it was surprising to see tonight in Game 5 with the series tied.
Yeah, and a part of me doesn't. They're gonna do. Tampa's gonna do this to you. They're gonna find a way to embarrass you if you don't come out with your energy that the Islanders do typically have. They didn't have they left their identity in the Coliseum.
Okay.
They did not show up with any jump. Even the 4th line didn't have it. Martin tried to fight. Was it Shen? Who side note? Who remembered Shen was this is Game 5? I'm fine. I'm like, Shen is on this team.
Yeah, I believe he was inserted for Eric Chernak, who was injured prior.
Right.
To this game.
I forgot. Didn't know he was on Tampa for whatever reason. But the Islanders just did not show up with their identity. You saw that from they either they were you didn't really get a chance to see it one way or another. It was just deflated. If they did show up with it, it was taken out immediately. It's after that goal they kind of gave up, and that's not typically what happens. They've done, and we've talked about it. I think we've both written articles about how they've let up at a really early goal on the first 5 shots in the first 5 minutes and managed to bounce back. Where they have letdown games and they come back and they do this, they they managed to do it. Maybe they're coming off of that like emotional high, winning that game, the Pulak save. I know we probably should have started with the win and went into this, but whatever. But you're coming off of that that emotional high. At the same time, Tampa is also coming off of a ton of momentum. So they kind of owned the second half of that third period, and the Islanders just didn't break. The bend don't break mantra that I think that was kind of the Islanders' secondary identity a lot of times, especially in last year's playoffs. But yeah, Tampa had that momentum. They knew that they could have the Islanders' number. Essentially, whatever the score is, again, we're not watching the game at this point. For all intents and purposes, it's 8 straight goals unanswered by Tampa Bay going back to last game.
Correct.
So you can talk about how the Islanders have had amazing second periods and outscored opponents 23 to whatever. Not tonight. Didn't show up. Left it on the plane. Left it in whatever airport they fly out of. I don't know, JFK. Whatever. This is just not the team that we're used to seeing.
No, definitely not. It's definitely concerning. And, like you said, 8 straight goals from Tampa. They scored the last 2 in game 4, and now going into game 5, they're up 6-0. So by the end of this recording could be, an upwards of, I don't know, maybe 10 goals unanswered, but definitely a bit of a concern. Wanted to get your thoughts on this because, the first shift for Barzal and Eberle, Trotz decides to put out Kyle Palmieri from the get-go. Now, Barzal and Eberle hadn't had a shift until after the Lightning's first goal, but the trend stayed for at least the first 25, 30 minutes of this game, where Palmieri was consistently rolled out with Barzal and Eberle. We wanted that for a long time. Was that maybe something that shouldn't happen?
I mean, that's not the reason for that this game went south.
No.
And they did win last game. And I haven't had all my thoughts together on this. I wanted to see how this game played out. And I don't think, to answer your question in short, no, I don't think that's the wrong move. I think on occasion it's good. Trotz has been doing this. I tweeted it out. Actually, I retweeted Joe Pantorno, and because he had a comment about Trotz in the lineup that it was the same, and I had said last year it was all about inserting the right player at the right time. Ross Johnson went in. Derek Brassard went in. You kind of every once in a while there was a new player in the lineup, and and it managed. Like we kept saying, he was pressing the right buttons. During this playoff run, it's been a lot more subtle, where you see Staple like, okay, Pellick's out with Mayfield, Pulak's out with Leddy, or Green is out with Pulak, or whatever the case is, or these little subtle, like he finally does put Palmieri up on that first line. Komarov is playing with Zajac and Pajot. So it's been a lot more, it's making it difficult for the other team to line match, I think. And then on the defensive side of the puck, I had kind of seen a couple people mention, and I think it bears repeating, that Pulak and Pellick are obviously one of the better tandems in the league. But if you split them up, even for like a shift or two, it seems like they're out there for 10 minutes straight.
Yeah.
So you kind of gain a little bit of an advantage there, because you're trying to get your best players away from them, and all of a sudden they're split. They're still very effective. So you wind up like, were they out there for 6-8 shifts in a row? Like, it just seems like they're out there every time. Dobson's getting less minutes at the end of games. I like Palmieri up there on occasion. I think there was a game earlier this series that Barzal again did not take a single faceoff in a game. I mean, maybe we talked about it last week. So Trotz is trying to do these little things. I think it's the right move. I don't know how often you need to do it. It's clearly not going to make it a defensive line. Like, you're throwing your eggs in this basket. And then the third line with Pajot, I know we called for it. I even did. And now looking at them play, the third line, that is, I didn't love it. I didn't like Palmieri at least brought out some better offensive qualities than Peugeot.
Well,
and then you truly had a third line. We always joke that it's 3 second lines. This was very clearly a third line with Komarov on the third line with Zajac and Peugeot is a third line.
Here's the thing for me, right? I think it's very specific to this switch. And when I asked, was switching Palmieri for Komarov the wrong move? And the reason I say this is because, Peugeot is definitely dealing with something. He's not 100%. He's not 100% himself. No. So, making that switch makes things a little tougher for Peugeot because no one's really focusing on Komarov. Everybody knows he's just going to play the defensive game. But it makes him have to do that much more in the offensive zone, especially with no Wahlstrom. Now you're looking at really two defensive wingers for a guy who can do pretty much anything. And he's also dealing with something, admittedly by Trotz. I get trying to, get some scoring. Totally. We've been asking for this for a long time. It's just interesting the timing of it, that it happened now when Peugeot's dealing with something. Yes, Game 4 was great, and most of Barzal's goals or points come with Komarov not on the ice. But do you go back to playing Komarov with Eberle and Barzal, when Game 6 resumes because Barzal's done for tonight, and using Palmieri?
Is it 5-10 in a game, or is it 5 and 10? Because he'll be back with 5 minutes left in third.
It's a 5-10 in a game. So he's out for Game 5. He's done. So going into Game 6, do you stick with Komarov on with Barzal and Eberle and place Palmieri in situationally like he has in the past?
I think that's what I'm hoping for, is what I'll say. Only because it makes, like I was saying earlier, you just lose a ton of depth having Komarov on that third line playing alongside Zajac and Peugeot. Palmieri at least adds a scoring threat and balances things out a little bit. Ideally, obviously, it's Lee on that first line, and then it's seriously deep.
Oh, yeah.
And chances are, frankly, it'd be Palmieri, Peugeot, and Komarov, if you want to be perfectly honest. But that's still not bad depth, right? If that first line is way more effective, as we know, with Lee in the lineup. I think it's situationally. I like that they were doing it when they had last change, and you're able to throw. Same thing with the defensive pairs. When you're able to just like grab one of your guys off and throw them in, or do it somewhat strategically, it's good coaching. That's thinking ahead. Tampa scored another goal point with his 20th goal in a row. Jeez, that guy's good. 7 goals on 14 shots. That is just atrocious. I know we're getting off topic here, but I'm having a hard they're scoring on every other shot. That is just nothing that the Islanders can do. Right? That's well beyond that's not even playing poorly, right? That's something else. I don't even know what to call it. That's unheard of. I've never seen something quite that bad before. And Tampa is third. I'm sorry. Jesus. I'm looking at this wrong. That's how aggravated I am. Islanders have 14 shots. Lightning have 7 goals. Not a great ratio. But 7 goals on 36 shots for the Lightning is what I meant to say. Still not great. That's
great.
One for, what is that? A goal every 5 shots? I don't math very well.
It's just about.
So that's still big yikes. So it's clearly not the goaltending, right? Both goalies are going to come in. That's not the answer. Like we were saying, the puck lands, Stamkos on a platter, deflects off Green, wins out of their sails. That's it. That's the game. But, back to your question. I think you go back to strategically doing it. You keep the lines balanced. They're at their best when they can roll 4 lines. And it sucks that it can't go another way.
Mhm.
It sucks that you make, and we've said this for a long time. That was what that third line, right? You take one player out, and this lineup is just decimated. And really, you see that with Pajot. You get one guy injured that stays in, with really no other option. A hurt Pajot is clearly better than Koivula or whoever, which speaks to how good Pajot is. Even a Pajot at 60% is better than the alternative of somebody else. But it just shows like when the wheels start coming off on this team, when one bolt is loose, that's it. Wheels are off. It's
when there's a kick
beauty
in
and
the
a curse.
machine, it's out of order.
It's incredible. It's been the beauty and the curse of this team, right? Knowing that they're such a tight knit group, that it's 12 forwards and 60 every night, and they can just go at it and do it. Are they just due for a bad game? Like, is that what's?
Is any team in the Final Four due for a bad game?
That's a good point. I mean, it's so hard because I think you could very easily contradict yourself in what we do. Thinking about,
easily,
because especially right now, this is very raw because we're like doing it post game, and I should be better at this point, being able to separate it. But it just like sucks when I can't even. I'm turning my phone off. Jesus, but you can easily contradict yourself and say, we've been homers. I don't think we're, Islanders thing right behind you. I wear my hat. Like it's not a surprise. No one watching or listening to this, we have, we're very happy. We have we think a lot of listeners. Maybe it's not, but we've said they deserve to be here. They're a good team. And you see something like this, and you're like, are they? Like, was this bound to kind of happen? Like, was Tampa eventually just going to just get their number? They were going to win. That Tampa didn't win 2 games in a row, even game 2 and 3, and the Islanders win game 1 and 4 or something like that. It's mind-boggling to me that they have not won 2 games in a row. Like, with how good they are. The Islanders can get figured out. It's very clear, and it's happened. They've had these dips. You saw it in the games against Philadelphia last year. You saw these dips in games where they just all the way off the gas pedal. It was bound to for the Islanders. This is pretty on brand.
Well, okay, this is a lot to unravel here because we're talking about. We're almost kind of now getting into, did they just get by? Did they skate by and just...
They deserve to be here.
Okay.
I just think this is very typical of the Islanders. And that's why I was very careful. Like, I don't want to contradict myself and say, obviously I've been a homer the whole time. They deserve it, blah, blah, and then be like, okay, they suck now. They obviously don't. But my point is, they do have these batches, right? Like, after a good run, there is a cliff. It is not a subtle they didn't play great in this game, and then they kind of got worse the next game, and then they lost 3 in a row. It is they're playing great. They give it all, guts on the floor, leave it on the ice. Game 4 at the Collie, and Pulock saves the game, and then it is just off a cliff. That is very on brand for this team.
It's been a long stretch of really good games. It's
only 2 series, but that's what happens in the regular season,
right?
They play really well. They play, and all of a sudden, like the week turns over, or the calendar turns over the next month, and you're like, "Who the hell is this team?"
Think of it.
They can win 17 in a row, and then all of a sudden, it's like for 11 games, it's just dog shit.
Think of it this way, though, right? It's been 2 series, like you said, yes, but it's only gotten tougher each series, right? You get past Pittsburgh, who has not as many, but almost as many superstars on their team.
But they have shitty goaltending.
Sure.
And that's what lost in that series. The Islanders capitalized on defensive lapses, which is what they do every game. But when you run up against a Vasilevsky versus a Jari, there's your difference.
You get past Boston, who they know how to play their system. And before the series, we said maybe their depth isn't so great. Wrong. They had good depth. They have real good depth. They have
They had
They have 4
injuries.
good lines.
I'm
They
also
had
not
injuries.
diminishing anything the Islanders have done. I'm just
We have
pointing out.
injuries right now. They're putting up a stinker, but the series is still currently, it will be 3-2 Tampa, but it was tied 2-2 going into tonight. Yes, bad timing for a stinker, but are we having this conversation Wednesday night if they win 1-0 at home? I don't think we are. I think
I'm worried. I'm not.
You're worried. Listen. They gave up 2 in the last game, and it led into this game, and now it's 9 straight goals unanswered. I get it, but if there's ever a coach to I don't believe in momentum going into Game 5 to Game 6.
I couldn't disagree more.
I think each game is its own individual. I do.
Yeah, but this is some serious not momentum. 9 straight, whatever it'll be at the end of this game.
But Tampa's going to score goals, and tonight is an anomaly. They don't do this. They'll lose 1-0, 3-2. They'll lose 4-2.
I think we've said this before,
and occasionally, they do have a stinker because it's a hard system to play. It is not easy. You have to have buy-in every single night. But going back to the Coliseum for Game 6, I don't expect there to be a momentum swing right into that game where Tampa comes out and scores 3 more in the first period in Nassau Coliseum. Am I saying that they're going to win that game? No. No, I'm not saying they're going to win that game. I'm not saying they're going to lose that game. But I don't see it going this way. I don't believe in momentum from Game 4 to Game 5. I think each game is its own. And I think Trotz doing what he does will get them back on their feet for the next game. They're going to, like we've said before, burn this tape, learn from it,
absolutely, and
move on.
I'll say this. If you're the losing team, as we are the fans of tonight, you're 100% correct. That has to be your mentality. That's a very professional and mature mentality to have. I would suggest you to take I know you didn't come up with it, so I can't give you the credit, but you're not wrong. Regardless, you're reiterating a very mature thing for the fan base where we can just not be aggravated, burn the tape, and move on. I would suggest anyone listening to this, take this into your professional life. You will make mistakes, burn the tape, and move on. Oh man, I just missed. But if you're the winning team, right? You are coming into that next game with a pep in your step. Now,
sure,
that can go to cocky, and you can make mistakes. Talented teams tend to, lollipop passes and this hot dog bullshit. It's very easy. The Islanders are good enough to capitalize on those mistakes, and Tampa will go in knowing that they cannot do that. They have to come in and use that confidence for the better. But they'll still have that. They're going to have an extra swagger, however many unanswered goals that they'll have by the end of this game. They're going to go into the Coliseum on Wednesday with a different attitude. They can close it out. They've been there before. They did it last year, right? They managed to bounce back, and it was I think the Islanders are certainly playing better in this series than they are last year. There's been very defining moments in this series that are showing me that they're, as a team, growing. I think, and this would be a good kind of internal debate for you. If you don't believe there's momentum from game to game, I don't know how that, anyone can sit there and say, oh yeah, well, they definitely grew from last year. It's like, okay, you either have the momentum you don't.
I don't think it has anything to do with momentum. When you grow, you learn.
I think there's probably subtle differences there, but at the same time, because I believe in momentum and growth like that, where it's, you can look at it in the sum of its parts and as a whole. I think it's the same thing. The Islanders should have learned a little bit more from last year. At this point, like that's what surprises me most about this game.
Let's rewind.
Going back to game one, like last year, this just really surprises me.
Let's rewind 4 games. Game 1, Islanders completely controlled that pace, completely controlled the game. They win. What was it? 3-0. It's not 8-0.
No, that's 8-0 for them.
But I'm saying it's not 8-0 tonight, like it is tonight. But game 1, the Islanders win. Game 2,
it was a 2-1 win.
In game 1,
unless the app is tell me that seemed wrong. That's why I looked it up. But yeah, it was a 2-1 win.
2-1 win, sure. But they completely controlled the pace of that game, right? Game 2, the Lightning come out and they win 4-2. And, sometimes the score doesn't always tell the story, but the 2-1 game that they won in game 1, there was a consensus across the board that the Islanders controlled that game. It was their game. They won because they maintained the pace of play the entire 60 minutes. And game 2, completely different game, and Tampa Bay wins 4-2. That's a perfect example of where I say I think each game is its own individual, right? You don't have momentum from one game to the next. It's in the playoffs. In the playoffs. I don't know about regular season. I'm talking specifically playoffs. No momentum from game to game. I think each is its own little mini series, if you will. But and again, like I said, I don't see going back to the Coliseum, them dropping another stinker like this. We'll see what happens as a result of Matthew Barzal. Maybe he'll just get a fine. I see some pictures going around on Twitter right now that it looked like maybe it was just more of a glove. Could have been a little bit of a sell by Ruda. Who knows? Let's see what's going on with JG Peugeot because he's not playing at 100%. Jordan Eberle is currently skating off of the ice in discomfort, so let's see where that goes.
Yeah, and I'll say just a correction on what I said earlier. Tampa Bay did win games 2 and 3, so They did win 2 in a row, which I forgot. I thought they were kind of going back and forth, but obviously game 4 they won, Islanders won, so a little off my game. This is not a normal.
You're frazzled. The Islanders are frazzled. We're all frazzled. It's okay. It happens.
Yeah, no, it's. I kind of, again, if you're the losing team, I totally get the. Oh, we're not. There's no momentum. If you're the winning team, you absolutely subscribe to momentum.
Oh yeah.
I think and that's why I thought this is why it's so surprising to me. I think you come off of that game, it goes one way or the other. That you come out and you just control this game, and the Islanders win 2-0 or something like that, or they just lay an egg. And unfortunately, that's I don't know. I don't want to say I expected it because that's a lie. I really did expect them to just come out and play a good game. And we said it before, we never get upset when this team loses a game and it's a good game.
Correct. Yeah. Yeah.
That is not the problem. They could have lost this series in a sweep in 3 overtime games and Andy Green off his butt. Like, all right, well, what are you going to do about that? That's as close as it's going to get. But that's just not what's happening, right? Like you're just watching them just go completely the other way. And like I said earlier, I think I understand. I don't like it, but I understand. You're just coming off an emotional game.
Right.
You had a day off. Going down a morning skate could just be all very tired at this point. It's not an excuse. You don't have to like that, but that looks like what's happening. They're getting very frustrated, which leads me to believe they're getting tired. They're making bad decisions. That's making them aggravated on top of it. And Tampa's just too good. You've given that many opportunities, and you're not providing any pushback. And that's the Islanders. There was a game, and we talked about it when Joe was on, where the Islanders had 9 rush chances and didn't let up a rush chance. In this game, in the first period, forget about rush chances. They were a handful, half a dozen or more
8.
odd man rushes.
8. There was 8.
So for this is just completely uncharacteristic. The D is tired. They got refrigerators on their back. They're cement shoes in quicksand with a fridge on. It's just line them all up, and it's just combining into what we're watching with this team. And we're just probably gonna keep going in circles here. There's unfortunately not a whole lot to say. They played like shit. They have to bounce back. They have to burn the tape. They really do have to score the first goal. And then I forget whatever game this was in the Boston series. They have to escape the first period without letting up a goal. They have to
escape the first minute without giving up a goal.
Well, let's start there too. But ideally, it's they escape the first period 1-0. You can build the momentum after that in that game. But they're in this game, again, their identity is capitalizing on Tampa Bay's mistakes, strong on the forecheck, getting the puck out of the zone. Their neutral zone play is typically really, really good. Their regroups, even if it goes into their own zone, typically very good. They move the puck. The defense has very good vision. They skate. They either gain the red line and dump it, or they find a guy and it's a tip in, whatever the case. Vasilevsky can move pretty quick. I don't think he's great at handling the puck, but he stops it. He gets out of his net really quickly. Islanders have found way to get pucks into corners and soft plays, soft puck dumps into the corner. It's not exactly what's happening. It was not what was happening in this game. They could barely get the puck in. Islanders could barely break out. They were letting the Tampa Bay, the Lightning, just walk out of their own zone. There was no pressure, which is the players weren't supporting each other. You typically see there's 3 forwards, and there's just like there's always somebody just circling in. There seems to just always be a forward, nowhere to be found.
Right.
No one was there. That typical supporting the puck, being on top of the puck. I think that when we talk about Butch has talked about that with Matt Martin. He always tries to stay above the puck, and that was not happening. They were behind the play. They were east or west of the puck. They couldn't catch up. The Lightning were just playing their game.
Yep.
And when you're off of yours, you make them look like fucking all-stars.
Yeah, the Lightning convert on the 2-point conversion. That guy you forgot about, Luke Shen, makes it 8-0 currently.
Yeah, that's my fault.
Halfway through the third period. Thanks a lot, John. Some comments from our listeners. And Eli asked the question, which would be more heartbreaking for the Isles, losing big like this or losing in a tight overtime loss? John, what are your thoughts?
Like we said, and this comment was made a few minutes ago, but I want to see them play a good game. I don't care if they lose. Like, look, I guess I care if they lose. I'll be upset if they lose. 8-0, not whatever it's going to be. That's not what I want to. That's not what I want to see. Look, if it was game 1 again, and then everything's forgotten about by now, by game 4 or 5, I can almost deal with it. In the middle of the series, when now you're going to go into the next game that you need to win, keeping the barn alive. This screams to me that Capital series in 2015, exact same circumstances for the Coliseum. Islanders responded, but then they laid that egg in game 7. Remember how disappointing that was? They played like shit in that game. I don't even remember what the score was. It may as well have been 11-0. I think it was a pretty high score, 6-1 or 5-1 or something. So no, I'd rather them play a tight game and lose. At least you can hang your hat on that. At least there's something to be desired. That's how they felt last year. They lost this game, and we were so close. That game could have went either way. This is like we don't even belong in the same fucking building. What do you think?
I think that you broke NHP's record for most cusses in an episode tonight.
I'm furious. I usually pretty. I try to add it in as flavor.
Let it fly tonight, bud.
Yeah, sentence enhancers for you SpongeBob fans. But no, I don't care. It's also like 11:15. I don't care.
No, I couldn't agree more. You wanna if you're gonna lose, you want to see them lose in a battle, and this was not a battle at all. This was a washing. I'm not going to reiterate what you said. I totally agree.
Play your game.
You want to see them play their
Show
game.
up.
Yeah, you don't want to see this. This is definitely much more disheartening and disappointing than it would be if we were to lose 2-1 in overtime. And let's just say, it's a game 7, 2-1 in overtime, and you lose and you're eliminated. Yeah, that's disappointing, but now you can say, hey, they're going to be back in that same spot next year. When you lose like this, let's say it's game 7 and they're on the brink of elimination, they lose this way, you start asking yourself, man, are they going to be back here next year? So it's two different.
It was a tough go in that Capitals series, right? It
Yeah.
was things. I don't think they made the playoffs the next year. I can't remember. But they weren't getting better.
Right.
They didn't get better after that year. It took them a while. Now, I think over time and with their identity and what they were building somewhat quietly and needed to have that all honed in by Lamoriello and Trotz, which, finally 3 years ago they did. It took some of that. This is a lot of the same team that went through losing to Carolina a few years ago, getting blown out, and 4 games, losing to the Capitals, losing to the Lightning in the second round of in the 2016 playoffs. The Lightning. This is going to be like the Capitals and the Penguins. Are the Lightning the Islanders' kryptonite, and they have to overcome it? That's going to be how they get over that hump. Capitals eventually avenged themselves against the Capitals, and that same year they went on to win the Cup.
Listen,
if this is just how this is going right now, and this is the destiny, and the Islanders are not going to win the series, it's certainly possible that this is just going to be who you go through, and you have to beat the best. At that point, the Penguins had come off of back-to-back Stanley Cups. That was who you had to go through. You're going to have to go through the best teams.
The Tampa Bay Lightning did this in a few seasons in a row. Lost when they were predicted to be the best. I believe I think they had 3 seasons worth of losing in the playoffs. And they even started to ask the question, is this team it? Are they the team that we think they are? And then there was question, are they going to disband? Are they going to start selling? Eventually they figured it out.
They stuck to their game plan.
They stuck to their game plan.
That speaks volumes to that organization.
Sure, absolutely. And I can't say the Islanders are not following those footsteps. If they lose this series, yes, it would be disappointing, but they're still gaining that experience. They're learning more and more as they go. You got new guys in the lineup like Wahlstrom and Sorokin, and we have a question queued up about Wahlstrom next. But the team is still growing a little bit. There's going to be a little bit of a different team on the ice next season, but the majority will remain, I believe, because they got some RFAs and UFAs to resign. And I don't know how much wiggle room there's going to be for new guys to come in. We'll see what happens with the expansion draft, but mostly the same team I anticipate being back on the ice next year, and the goal is going to remain the same for Trotz, for Lamoriello, and for the roster. You'll have Lee back, and things are going to, it's going to look good again, and we'll see what happens. But to answer your question, yeah, we would rather see them lose in a close game rather than a large stinker like this. Next question comes from Barker, and he says it's time, or rather his statement says it's time to get Oliver Wahlstrom back in the lineup. And assuming they don't make a 9-goal comeback with 6 minutes remaining in this game, the Islanders will be on the brink of elimination in Game 6, and not having scored any goals in the past
4 periods.
4 periods,
being outscored 10-0 in 4 periods.
Yeah, Trotz might look to get some offense back in the lineup. I don't know who he takes out. I don't know if that looks like Komarov. I don't know if that looks like Zajac, but it's going to be one of those 2 guys. It's not going to be anybody else unless,
I have to imagine.
For some reason, unless, and I don't think this is going to happen, but, if Barzal receives a little more than a fine for his cross-check to Ruda, and he's forced out of the game. I don't see anybody else coming out besides Komarov or Zajac. My gut is it will be Zajac. We will see what happens.
I don't know. Like Trotz is a very like, I'm putting faith in these guys. I'm not gonna blow a gasket and make any rash decisions based on one game, right? They've gotten this far with this group to a certain extent. I'd be willing to bet he believes he can continue with it. However, changing out one guy is not exactly blowing it up because of one game. That's just injecting a little bit of something in there. Wahlstrom, if it's going to be the last game, not that you want to see Wahlstrom, aggravate whatever he was hurting. And if they're probably thinking about his long-term health. Like, all right, if they're going to lose this series anyway, there's no reason to throw him in there and get hurt. It's going to ruin his career. We want him to come back next year as healthy as possible. So that's probably what they're trying to determine. Like, is he going to come back and get his shit pushed around and he's going to be screwed? Same thing with Lee. He could, under any other circumstance, if it was any other injury other than his knee, where he's going to get pushed around in front of the net and you need it to be good. They're looking at the long-term health of these players.
Right.
So I don't know. Who else you'd put in. It's got to be Komarov or Zajac from tonight. I also don't know that if I'm thinking about how Trotz operates, like it's not one game does not just like mean he makes these major changes. I think, and again, one player in and out, I wouldn't even consider major. It is this season because he has not done it in the playoffs. Last year that was pretty commonplace, as we talked about earlier. Guys in and out. That was,
we saw it last year in the postseason though, when in
that's what I mean.
An elimination game, he put Dobson in instead of I forget who he took out in place of Dobson. Dobson's lone game came in the Hounds' last game of the playoffs last season, so you might see it happen again.
Yeah, so it's whether it's Wahlstrom or somebody else. I can't even remember who was on the rest of this roster because we just have not seen them and I haven't thought about it at all. But yeah, any one of the healthy scratches, if they think they can just add a little bit, honestly. If you want to throw a real wrench in there and you just because of how dead the team was, I know this is off the board and not even close to anything, but just my own personal thing. Cole Bardreau, guy was shot out of a cannon. This is whatever it was 2 years ago. It's a ton of fucking energy. He's an extra center just like Zajac is. If you need him to take faceoffs, I don't think you're going to throw him on the first line with Barzal to take faceoffs and get off, but he's at least an option out there on. I think he might also be a righty, which doesn't help anything. A lot of righties on this team, which is very strange, and they're all like on the same lines together. But something like you got to inject something, like you got to have somebody in there that's like, look, this is my shot. This is all I have. This is going to be my one game.
Somebody with a sense of urgency.
Like something like you got to inject like that's going to give the whole. It's like adding a Lee back into your lineup. Like you got to. Who is that spark? Who's going to do that? To me, it's like Bardreau would run through a wall. He has nothing to lose. He's a career AHL guy. He's going to go in gangbusters. He's going to lose. He's going to be like having 2 cases Zekas out there, which. I've kind of like hoped that would happen if Clutterbuck doesn't come back at some point. You just throw Bardreau in that spot with Martin. 2 Cizikas out there. That'd be ridiculous. You just have these 2 guys with a ton of energy running around. I love that.
It's an interesting concept.
Yeah, I mean, when Bardreau was in the lineup in that third line center position, I loved it because I thought it's not Pajot. Obviously, you can't. Pajot was far and away better. However, at the time, this is pre-Pajot. I believe it was the same season, if I'm not mistaken.
I believe so.
Because it was during that big win streak.
Yep.
That Bardreau goes in, he scores his first goal in the penalty shot. It was a very big deal. I loved that there was 2 of these guys out there, and I almost wanted to switch them. I almost wanted to give Cizikas that, like, elevate him to that third line, like give him more of an offensive shot, like have him play with some better players. And I loved both of them in the lineup. Loved it. I thought it was great. But they need an injection. They need something that's gonna nothing to lose. They're gonna leave it all on the ice. This is their one game to make a difference, even if it's literally just energy and getting the rest of the guys going.
Game 6, 8 p.m. Wednesday, going back to Nassau Coliseum. What do the Islanders got to do to win this game? I'll answer my own question. One, they have to play with a lead, because that's been something they do not do too often in these playoffs. And it's, I don't want to say it's a surprise they've gotten this far while not playing with the lead as often as they do, but they don't play with a lead too often. Now, we all know they don't panic. They don't bend. They don't break. They just bend. I get it. But playing with the lead is obviously crucial to the success of this team. If they end up chasing a lead, it can't be in the first minute or first 5 minutes of the game. They gotta defend. They gotta make sure that there's at least some glimmer of hope going into the next period, and they're not down and chasing the game for 50 minutes, because aside from tonight, it's not often that it's a high scoring game. And when you're chasing a game for 50 minutes, you finally get that break late in the third period. It's exhausting and it's hard to maintain that pace. So play with the lead, at least don't give up a goal in the first 5 minutes. And something I said for going into game 3 that they didn't do too often in game 2 is, they try too often to skate the puck over the Tampa Bay blue line. They got to lock down. Dump that puck. Get it behind net. Chase it. Win a puck battle. Win a board battle. Make Vasilevsky look over his shoulder. Because when he does that, he doesn't have eyes in the back of his head. He's not going to see what's going on in front of him. Get guys in front of the net. Play from behind Vasilevsky and make him have to make a save he shouldn't make. You can
only do it so many times.
You can only do it so many times. You're absolutely correct, but they have.
Vasilevsky, he can only make so many.
No, I know. I'm agreeing with you. You're absolutely correct. But if anybody's going to do it, it's him. But again, like you said, you can only do it so many times, and if you play from behind the net, chances are you're going to find one or two more opportunities, because when you have the puck in deep like that, a bounce here and there. You see guys banking pucks in off backs of people's heads, off of their nameplate, stuff like that. So I'm not saying that should be their goal, but play from behind the net, make Vasilevsky turn around.
Here's my prediction. This is, you heard it here first, although I did also just tweet it. Dow Cole back in the lineup. Game 6.
No,
I don't know. That's a guy trusts him.
I don't even know if he's 100% healthy. I don't think anybody knows if he's 100% healthy.
Maybe. I can't find another. I don't know.
Another outlet.
It's got to be somebody. You got to add. You got to change. Not because of Zajac is bad, right? I'm not saying that he's a problem, or even Komarov, who one of the goals he was on the blue in his own blue line. And didn't get the puck out when he had a chance, even if it was icing. But they need something. They just need some extra oomph. And at this point, I don't know. No one's played other than these guys in a long time, so I'm not sure how you stick a guy in there.
The problem, and we're going to end on this note. The problem is that the mental lapses are coming from their mainstays. You have Barzell's taking a bad penalty tonight. Nicoletti has had a horrible postseason. He's with sprinkling a game or two here where he wasn't bad. Mayfield wasn't good tonight. He's had a fantastic postseason. Tonight was a bad game for him. Pelican Pollock had a pretty bad turnover each in this game. So their mainstays are not doing it for them. Beauvillier was invisible. Eberle has just not produced. So the issue is, you could take out a Komarov, you could take out a Zajac, you could put in a Walsham, and he'll play with urgency. But when your mainstays are not getting it done, that's a problem. We'll see how they respond for Game 5. Keys to the game: play from behind the net, play with a lead, and don't give up a goal in the first 5 minutes. If they can do that, they get their feet under them, and they should be able to hopefully edge out Tampa Bay on home ice.
Only counts as one loss. Still
It
only
does.
3-2.
It does. 8 goals doesn't mean they lost 2 games. 8 goals in 60 minutes, they lost 1 game. A loss is a loss. Burn the tape. You move on. Those are my closing comments. You have anything further to say there, bud?
I don't think so. It's disappointing, and see what happens on Wednesday.
We will see what happens on Wednesday. We want to thank the Hockey Podcast Network, the Hockey Writers, and of course, all of you, our listeners. Please rate, review, and subscribe wherever you listen to or watch the show. You can follow us on Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok at Nassau and Hockey, and find our work at thehockeywriters.com. And until next time, let's go Islanders.